So we have not yet formally begun the session, but there was a question about sattvic food. So Bhagavad Gita defines sattvic food as those food items that are preferred by a sattvic mind. A sattvic person prefers to eat that kind of food. So it's not a label that is attached to the food. It is what the state of mind of a sattvic person, what are they guided to eat? So the shloka goes, Ayus Sattva Balarogya Sukha Priti Vivardhanaha. So Ayus Sattva Balarogya Sukha Priti Vivardhanaha Rasya Snigdha Stira Hridyaha Ahara Sattvika Priyaha. Sattvika Priya, that means that is they find these food items delicious. So let me share a story around this. My teacher always used to say that even what we label as sattvic food, say fresh vegetables and whatnot, fruits, etc. Even sattvic food, when it is consumed from a rajasic state of mind, it will be processed by the body as a rajasic food, right? So it's not so much as the food, it's the state of the mind. That's why Krishna also says, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. So do the actions once you are in a space of yoga. So be in yoga and eat food. So when you are in yoga, mind is sattvic. So your preference will be towards sattvic. That is how we eat sattvic food. It's not that my mind is set up and now let me eat sattvic food.
So does that?
And then same the mind is tamasic. Then if you eat sattvic food, it will be processed as tamasic food. So when he was explaining all this, once in the class, somebody asked a very, Namaskar. So there was one student in the class who everyone used to call him Smart Alec, right? Smart Alec. So he had a question. So he had a brilliant idea. That means if there is tamasic food and they really want to eat it, it's junk food, tamasic food. So I can bring my mind to a place of sattva. So even if I consume tamasic food, it will be processed by the body as sattvic food, right? It's a very interesting question, right? And my teacher said, yes, you're right. But when you transform your mind to sattvic mind, what will your preference be? You will prefer to eat sattvic food, right? You will not be tempted by junk anymore. But if you want to use the sattvic mind, use it.
Does that mean your 4 cheese pizza, you have a sattvic mind anyway? So your 4 cheese pizza was digested as sattvic food.
Maybe my mind was not sattvic yesterday.
No. After 3 days of immersion of Patanjali YogaSutras? No, I don't think so.
And I think we can turn the audio also off, so echo will not be there.
Yeah, I think there's one more audio over there. Maybe we can mute that. It's muted? Okay. Is the audio clear now? Okay.
Before we formally start, just one more question. This food conversation reminded me of the point you made on the first day about short-term versus long-term gratification. And Bhavnaji's question was, how do we live in the moment if we're thinking about the long term? And I think your response was that we should deepen our thinking to think of it as lower joy and higher joy. Can you expand on that and how that doesn't kind of lead to the same trap of like thinking of more, or how do we define joy? Because I feel like I could rationalize anything to be like, okay, this will give me a higher joy. I'll have a memory of this to talk about later, something like that.
Yeah, with enough life experience, we already have an idea which is lower joy, higher joy. For example, let's think of a child. And if you ask them the question, would you like a piece of chocolate or would you like a piece of mind?
Chocolate.
You see? Whereas for someone who has a lot of life experience, perhaps they would prefer, maybe if they have grown up really in the mind, more wisdom has come, they would choose peace of mind, right? So it's obvious to us what is higher joy, what is lower joy. In fact, we can use the principle that was given in Bhagavad Gita, Ehi samsparshaja bhoga, sloka number 22 of chapter 5. So he says that any joy that has a beginning and the end is ephemeral, whereas lasting joy is sattvic joy. Ultimately, the joy which is eternal is the joy that comes from the self, and the self has never left us. It is like the sun is always there, but sometimes it is covered by clouds. So when we allow the sunlight or open the window, maybe the window was covering the sun. So open the window and suddenly the sun, we can say that the sunlight started when I opened the window, but the sunlight was always there. They also give another analogy in Vedanta. We say the sun is rising, as if the sun is doing something. It is rising. It is, doing something so that it is bestowing the world with the spectacle of sunrise. I am doing something. The sun doesn't think of that way at all. Sun is not doing it. Just there, doesn't even know that some people are calling it sunrise, some people calling it sunset. It is the relative position, the earth and the sun. In fact, we're going to talk about it. See, we have some astronomy today. And that is what creates the appearance of sunrise and sunset. So the appearance of joy coming in and out is because of the vantage point from which we see it. But the joy is always there. The sun is always there.
See, even in the night, the sun is giving you the light.
Even the night sun is there.
It's the perception.
In fact, the sun is giving light. Light of the sun we cannot see in the night, unless, of course, it's reflected by the moon or the planets. You see the planet or the moon. But there are more things coming to us from the sun than the electromagnetic waves, right? You have neutrinos. Neutrinos just pierce the earth. Only one neutrino or few dozen neutrinos, they get trapped by the earth. So wherever the sun is, it's constantly we are getting neutrinos from there. Even if the sun is right down, in other words, it's midnight, we are still receiving neutrinos from the sun. So there's always something we are receiving from the sun. It's interesting. Many people have given the proposition that perhaps prana is neutrinos. That is one theory like that. It's very interesting. Okay, I think we should go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining. This is the final session. And today we are going to discuss about freedom. What is Kaivalyam according to Patanjali? And it's a nice occasion to examine this topic on July 4th, the Independence Day. So allow me to begin with the chant on Maharishi Patanjali. Om ஐந்து கரத்தனை ஆனை முகத்தனை இந்தின் நிளம்பிறை போன்ற எயிற்றினை நந்தி மகந்தனை ஞானக் குழுந்தினை புந்தியில் வைத்தடி போற்றுகின்றேனே யஸ்த்யக்த்வா ரூபமாத்யம் பிரபவதி ஜகதோ நேகதானுக்ரஹாய பிரக்ஷீண க்லேஷராசிர் விஷம விஷதரோ அநேகவக்த்ர சுபோகி सर्वज्ञान प्रसूतिर्भुजग परिकरो प्रीतये यस्य नित्यं देवो हि शस्सवो व्यात् सित विमलतनुर् योगदो योगयुक्तः योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहु पुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं श्रीमते अनन्ताय नागराजाय नमो नमः अस्मदाचार्येभ्यः सर्वेभ्यो नमो नमः ओम So in today's session, what we will do is, not only do we look at the theoretical aspects of Kaivalya, but we'll also see how to practicalize it and how it can help us live in a society. Sometimes Kaivalya has a bad reputation, right? Because Kaivalya means they escape. People think it's an escape from the world. What we are going to discover is Kaivalya is a state where you're unconditionally happy. Nothing outside of us can dictate the state of our inner world. On our inner world, we have complete control of it. In that sense, you're independent. You're not dependent on anything outside of you to make you happy. That is the idea of Kaivalya. They say there's a difference between loneliness and solitude. What is the difference between loneliness and solitude? What would you say?
Loneliness, you're feeling sad that you're alone. But solitude is you're with yourself. With yourself. You're fine. I'm alone and I'm happy being alone.
I read a definition or the distinction between loneliness and solitude recently. In fact, this morning when I was in Dr. Shroff's house, so he showed me a little saying, difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the experience of the poverty of the self. Solitude is the experience of the richness of the self. So in the yogic perspective, right, we seek to experience the best of ourselves, the highest, richest version of ourselves. So that is Kaivalyam. And if you know you are rich, you have everything that you need. You have all the resources that you need. And whatever you want, you have the strength to bring it to you. If I want to eat something, I know I have the ability to bring that food to me. I can buy the food. I have the resources to get there. I have the talent to make me live comfortably. So all that is there. We have complete confidence in the self. So that is Kaivalyam. You're unconditionally happy. Of course, you cannot say depend on others, like to build a house, and you depend on others to have a car and things like that. But it is not truly a dependency. We can call it interdependency. Interdependent. What's the difference between dependent and interdependence?
Dependency is when you have forgotten your own worth in the situation or what you can contribute. Interdependency is when you're aware of what you lack, either because of, for whatever reason,
There's a
you're
deeper
human, and you take help from your fellow people because that gap needs to be filled. It doesn't come from a place of diminished self, but it comes from a space of self-respect.
Self-respect. So it's in Bhagavad Gita, for example, it is stated as a transaction, not something like without the other, I will disappear. It's not like that. And another aspect that distinguishes dependent versus interdependence is, in dependency, there is a dependence on one particular other. Whereas interdependency means, if the other says bye-bye, then we always have the resources to get it from elsewhere. For example, yesterday the topic came about, if the manager has to lay off people. If the employee feels, okay, I can always find an employment elsewhere. So they're confident about themselves. So still there is interdependency, but then there is independence in the sense they are so sure about themselves. That is the richness of the self. They don't feel the poverty. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I don't think I have the resources. That's the feeling of the poverty of the self. They feel lonely. Whereas a person who is in a space of solitude, they have so much richness they can share with others. So a person who is in that space of solitude, it is said that many people will be drawn to them. Great saints, they attract people like that, right? Around them, there will be a lot of people who revel in that presence of joy. Like Buddha had a lot of people around. Although Buddha is embodiment of silence. Vivekananda, so many people who are inspired and who are in the presence of great sages like him. So there's a beautiful analogy for this in the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, I think 70th or 69th or 70th verse. It goes, Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapaha pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti na kama kami. What it means is, here he gives the analogy of the ocean, samudramapaha. So ocean is so full, it doesn't need more water. It is not asking, please give me more water. It's already so full, it's rich with water. Yet, all the waters of the rivers pour into the ocean. You see? In like manner, a person who has found the richness within will attract more of it from outside. You see, they are sharing and therefore they also receive. More will come to them. This is the abundance mentality, as they say. When there's abundance mentality, then there'll be, you share a lot and you also receive a lot, just like the ocean. We can also practicalize that. So I'm now setting the stage for definition of Kaivalya, but we'll come to that in a bit. I want to give one more example of this abundance mentality. You know, when I was a grad student, every Friday evening, we used to go to ice cream parlor. We were just talking about Sattvic food before. Right? So as a group of like 10 people, we used to visit an ice cream parlor. And some of the people who worked at the ice cream parlor were also grad students. They were making money by doing that. And we used to chat. One day, one of them revealed a secret to us. You know, when they ask for tip, there'll be a tip box, right? A transparent tip box. They said, if customers see the tip box empty, they will not put anything in the box, no tip. But if the box is already filled with a lot of money, many coins and many dollar notes, then the customers will willingly put more money. So where there is the ocean, you just put it. Or even a Facebook page, for example, if there are 10,000 likes, you click like. If there are only 1 or 2 likes, so should I like it or not? You are very tentative about it, right?
Yeah.
So the point is, wherever there's richness, more will happen. And in this day and age, it's been, you know, coming to us back as law of attraction and all that. You see, same principle. So abundance mentality, we receive more. So I hope I've convinced you about the value of finding the inner richness, right? Finding that Kaivalyam. So we are unconditionally happy. Unconditional, whether it happens or not, I am happy, right? Okay, so what is the definition of Kaivalya? We still have to set some foundations. So before we get into that, I would like to quote a sutra that will help us understand what is Kaivalya. The sutra is the 15th sutra of the 4th chapter. And it says, Vastu samye chitta bhedaha tayor vibhakta panthaha. Vastu samye chitta bheda tayor vibhakta panthaha. What does it mean? So there's a vastu, there's the object in front of chitta bhedaha. There are multiple chittas, multiple minds, multiple people watching the same thing, or the same mind watching the same object at different times, because our chitta also changes. We'll come to that a little later. We have multiple chittas, by the way. We were thinking there is just one chitta, right? So we have a big, what's it called? AMC 30, right? There's a 30 movie screens in our head. So many chittas we have. Chitta is the screen we thought about. So we'll come to that. That's one more sutra. Patanjali will talk about that. So what does this mean? Vastu samye chitta bheda tayor vibhakta pantaha. The same object, when it is perceived by different chittas, it will be experienced differently. Right? Half empty or half full. What do you draw from that experience? Is this a problem? Or is it a challenge? Or is it a puzzle to solve? So it's all in the mind, how we filter it, how we perceive it. There is a statement, perspective creates perception. Perspective creates perception. The vantage point from which you see something is what you will perceive. So the perspective means the vantage point from which you see that object. That will determine what you see. And in order to illustrate that, we have a little cartoon here. So the first cartoon on top. So there are two people, two chittas. Let us call one person Mr. Yogi, right? Another person Mr. Bhogi. So they are situated in two different places and they are seeing the same pattern. Maybe it's a big carpet that has this pattern, right? So Mr. Yogi, from his vantage point, he might read it as 8, right? What does Mr. Yogi see? He sees the same thing as infinity. So that's the difference between a yogi's mind and a bhogi's mind. Where when bhogi's mind sees a finite thing, yogi's mind sees an infinite thing, right? The vantage point from which you see it determines what you see. So the yogi is actually seeing something profound, infinity. He's seeing infinity. And the bhogi says, oh, it's only $8, worthless, right? So the vantage point is very important. Now, what is the lesson from this? Whatever we experience, we can change it by changing our perspective. Change the vantage point from which you see the same object. See the same situation differently. If we don't like what we see it from a different angle, right? Now, what is the perspective that we should adopt in order to give us the best perception or the best experience? How should I position myself so that I experience that object or that event in the best way possible? That is what Kaivalya is. And we're going to see that I'm going to quote the sutra in a few moments. Kaivalya means whatever is happening, you see it from the best vantage point. Best, like a first class seat. From that, you will have the best view. And all the experiences will be processed by you as an uplifting, profound experience. You changed the way you see things. Now, which vantage point should you choose? That is the question. And we will come to that. But before we jump there, let me briefly go back to the topic of there are multiple chittas in the same mind. Right? It's amazing, right? In our mind, there are multiple chittas. So there is a sutra in the 4th chapter again. I think it's the 6th or 7th sutra of the 4th chapter. Nirmana chittani asmita matrat. Nirmana chittani asmita matrat. The sutra. Nirmana chittani. We manufacture chittas. Our brain is a chitta factory, basically. Manufacture one after another chitta. And what is it that common? What is it that distinguishes my chitta from your chitta? I have 30 chittas. You might have 150 chittas. There are so many chittas. So a person's chitta is united by the thread of asmita, asmita matrat. All of the chittas are connected by the thread of asmita, I am, I amness. Our identity ties all of these together. So why do we have different chittas? Because we play different roles, right? At home, maybe we are a daughter, we are a son, or we are a parent. Elsewhere, we might be a teacher. In another place, we might be a student. At work, we don the role of a manager or a boss or employee. So there are so many ways in which we change our vantage point. So each of it will create a different chitta. We experience our life in a different way. If you use the chitta that I am the boss in the house, you can guess what happens, right? using the wrong chitta at the wrong place, then then the bossy chitta will dominate all our experience, right? Or if we don the chitta that I am a student everywhere we go, or if I am the teacher wherever they go, what will they do? They will give unsolicited advice all the time, right? In fact, Krishna is a great example. Krishna is called the Jagat Guru, right? He is one of the greatest teachers. When Krishna taught the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, the 11th chapter, Arjuna says, "Oh my God, I thought you were just my friend." So Krishna was playing the role of a friend, chitta of a friend. I didn't know that you had a chitta of a teacher. See, you are such a great teacher. I took you for granted. He says, how does the verse go? Sakheti matva prasabham yaduktam he Krishna he Yadava he Sakheti. I took you for granted. I thought you were my friend. We were chit-chatting on trivial things. But if I knew that you were such a wise person, I would have more respect for you. And it illustrates a very important point. Until Arjuna asked, "Oh, please teach me," Krishna didn't assert the teachings on Arjuna's mind. "Hey, come, I'm going to tell you about Sankhya." He didn't say that. The nature of yourself. Do you know that you're infinite? He didn't say that at all. He just participated with the spontaneity of that. We are talking about spontaneous, right? So there was no asserting of that knowledge when it is not asked for. Only when it was asked. In fact, even in the first chapter, there is no Upadesham. Krishna doesn't speak at all in the first chapter. First chapter, Arjuna is just lamenting, right? They're just they're complaining about why this is not, and using logic to defend not the right thing. So Krishna is just listening, and then only in the key verse in the second chapter, there's a key verse: Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha pruchhami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha. I'm a dharma sammuda. That means there's a dharma sankatam happening. Yachreyasyam pruhitam nishchitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Shishyasteham, I'm your student, please teach me. Only then Krishna starts speaking, and then he starts with the Upadesha, the teachings. So till then, it's like there's a big library. Unless we go there and open a book and read it, it is just there. It's not going to assert a book on it. It's not going to throw a book on our head, read it. No. So we have to be prepared for that. Or we can't go to the library and ask the librarian, "Please give me a book to read." Right? We have to be very clear. What do we want? Okay, I want a book on mathematics, or I want a book on Yoga Sutras, right? And they will guide us. So unless we are clear in what we want, we cannot receive that knowledge or absorb that knowledge. So that's why we have multiple chittas. And then the reason why yogis have not just 10, 12 chittas, some thousands of chittas they will manufacture. The reason why they manufacture so many chittas is each of the chitta will be used to remove their karma from the karmashaya. The other day we spoke about the karma tank, the karmashaya, lot of unripe karma that will make itself manifest in future births. We all carry a load of karmashayas. In order to remove that, exhaust that, instead of spending 1,000 lifetimes with one chitta, the same lifetime, produce 1,000 chittas and do it. It's a nice calculation, right? Create a lot of chittas and exhaust all the karmashayas. So this is the mechanics of the chittas, mechanics of the mind, how we use the different chittas. Any questions at this point?
Yeah, I have a question. So you spoke about Kaivalyam, the important thing is what point we are looking at, right? The vantage point. So here my thing is how does one then understand the difference between looking at it from the best vantage point and being just delusional about what they're looking at? That difference of, oh, I'm trying to see the positive in it, versus I'm just being delusional.
Yes, that's a good point, right? We should not see what you are stating is something that is opposite to Satyam. There is an experience of some danger happening. I've seen a cartoon, right? Fire all over the place, and they're saying, "Oh, all is well," or something like that. You see, I know. I think most of you might have seen. It's a very popular meme. It goes around. I've seen many times in Twitter and all that. I forgot the exact tagline.
It's like a dog, right?
Yes,
then
that's the one.
it's like everything is fine or everything is okay.
Yeah.
Or something.
Everything is okay, and the fire all over the place, right? So that is not what we're talking about. That is not positive thinking, right? So, for example, let's consider a practical situation. Suppose we poke our finger in fire. Would we say, tolerating that burn, tolerating that pain, oh, everything is okay. Oh, everything is really okay. Oh, everything is really okay, right? What we could say is, wow, that pain has alerted me to some bigger danger, and that instinct reaction, that spontaneous reaction where we take our finger away from fire, it has helped me. That pain was good for me. That is seeing it in a positive way, right? So it's not we ignore the pain. Pain has a message to convey to us, but we look at it differently, as if it is our friend. It is our friend. It is guiding us, and it helps us to avert a bigger danger. So that is one way in which we can use it in a positive situation.
And the same thing about the Kurukshetra. It's not about it's okay, the unfairness or dharma, but using that as an opportunity to restore dharma. This somewhat of a Gita sense, right? So it's not about, hey, everything is hunky-dory, let's not fight.
Exactly. It's not like a burglar comes home and then say, oh, everything is fine. I'm a generous person. Aparigraha, Patanjali says, take what you want. I also do charity. So let me donate everything to you. Now, why is that bad? Right? Bhagavad Gita also says that if you want to do charity, danam, deshe kalecha patrecha taddanam satvikam smritam. That means even when we give something to somebody, it has to be given to someone who's worthy of it. Otherwise, whatever we give them, maybe they will abuse it. Maybe they will get drunk, or they will use it for some nefarious activities. A burglar, if we are generous to them, what message does it convey? It conveys that they can do even more. That problem will metastasize, right? And it will grow bigger and bigger. The adharma became so big that it had to be attended to using that war. So Kurukshetra war, it could have been averted much before, but they waited for so long, and the only way now to avert more adharma is to have that war. So rather than waiting for so long, in fact, this burglar thing, Eka and I experienced it. So a couple of months before we moved to California, once I was teaching a Patanjali yoga class, actually, Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And when I was driving back, Eka called frantically. She said, oh, somebody broke into our house. And so when I went home, the house was hollow and empty, right? Everything was gone. All the items were gone, and there was a little mess in the home. And there was a big hole on the front door. So, and then we called 911, etc. We were not like, okay, they took everything, it's going to help them. We did charity, it's not like that. So we called 911. And then when we were, and when I was talking to the insurance people, a couple of hours later, so the insurance person was saying, oh, wait, are you sure your house got burglarized? Because you seem to be so calm. Because usually they are, frantically, they're trying to say, oh, this happened, that happened. And I was so calm, she could not even believe that some burglary took place. So that was a very interesting part of our life. So, yes.
That's the point to look there. You have one of the misters missing.
One of the?
Misters missing in that.
Hmm.
Mr. Rogi.
Rogi. My My teacher used to say, Bhogi, Yogi, Rogi, and Ayogi. Ayogi.
That's one of the three dimensions
Hmm.
that EkaShri is working in. And then she said the vision,
Hmm.
right? Then it doesn't even fit into those two.
The
Rogi
eight,
is somebody who's delusional. Rogi.
Rogi is somebody who's ill or sickness.
Oh,
Rogam.
Rogi. Okay.
Rogam.
Yeah, Bhogi is at least you're normal. You're
He's
successful.
a yogi.
Bhogi is
A yogi.
Ayogi. Ayogi is somebody who's doing all kinds of things opposite to the yogic ethic. Ayogi.
He doesn't care.
Yeah, doesn't care. Like Ravana.
Healthy, but doesn't fit.
That health is only short-lived, not sustainable.
So that's where the word comes from. Like in colloquially, they'll scold him. You'll be such a ayogya. That's where it comes from.
Ayogi.
So anti-yama, anti-niyama
Yes.
is like,
Or anti-asana, anti-pranayama. Any anti of yoga sadhana.
but even there also, Ravana, it's like he has some dimensions of yogi, like in many chittas.
So what did Ravana do? Right? Ravana did tapas.
Yeah.
You cannot even say he did yoga.
Right?
So tapas, there are three types of tapas. If you look at the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it talks about tapas in 6 shlokas. There are 3 shlokas that talk about Rajasic, Tamasic, and Sattvic tapas, and another 3 shlokas that talk about bodily tapas, speech tapas, and manomaya tapas, the mind tapas. So Sharirika tapas, Vangmaya tapas, and Manomaya tapas. What Ravana did was Tamasika tapas. So let's see what Tamasika tapas is. The shloka that defines Tamasika tapas is, how does it go? I'll state Rajasika first because from that it's easy to get to Tamas. Satkaramana pujartham tapodambhena chaivayat kriyate Rajasamchala madhruvam. The Tamasic now I remember. Muda grahyena atmano yat pidaya kriyate tapaha parasyor sadhanartham va tattama samudahrutam. Muda grahyena, with a deluded mind. Atmano yat, with a lot of selfish attitude. Pidaya, with a lot of torture. Doing tapas with a lot of torture, when they torture themselves, for example. Like doing too much tapas, so that it's no longer beneficial, it's detrimental to the system. Somebody says cook food, it will purify the food, destroy the germs. They cook it all the way and overcook it, and it's not even palatable. It's like that amount of tapas is there. So pidaya kriyate tapaha parasya utsadanartham va. That tapas not only is detrimental to them, it tortures others also. Torturing others also. Torturing oneself and others. This is called Tamasika tapas. So that's what Ravana was doing.
So I thought maybe I can get a little bit tangential. When he was doing tapas, with perhaps with the right intention, that's the reason why the Brahma came the souls, all the powers and all that stuff. He is considered to be a great devotee of Shiva and all that stuff. But no, at least when he was doing it, I don't know if he had a motive or not.
It's like when we do an action, there's a corresponding consequence. So if somebody says, if I stand on my head, I will have more intellectual power because more blood supply goes to the brain. And say it's true. It is true. So let's say that they become more intelligent. But they can use the intelligence in both ways. In fact, we have to be more careful about people who do bad things, who are more intelligent. If they're not very intelligent, they cannot do much damage. Whereas we have to be very careful for shrewd, intellectual criminals. Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly.
the consequence will always be there. They did tapas, okay, they will receive consequence. It's just a law of karma asserting itself. Okay.
I have
Question.
a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that yogis
manufacture multiple chittas to burn karma. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? How does that help in burning more karma?
It is like, so first of all, in the karma tank, you have a repository of karma shares. Karma share is the karma tank. In it, you have a lot of unripe karmas whose consequences are waiting to happen at a future time. What is contained in the karma share are seeds. So given the right conditions, it will sprout, right? Now, in fact, they divide the karma share into 3 types of karmas. So what are the 3 types of karma? You have prarabdha karma, sanchita karma, and agami karma. Prarabdha, sanchita, and agami. Just a quick overview what they are. Sanchita is all the karma that we have been accumulated for all our lifetimes. It is sitting in that. Prarabdha is those karma seeds that we have chosen to be consumed in this lifetime. Okay, I'll give an example for that a little later. And then agami karma are those karmas that are not yet in the karma shaya, but when we follow our same life habits, more karma will come. In other words, the seed, if it sprouts, it will create a tree, it will create more fruits. From the fruits, there will be seeds. So those additional seeds that will come in the future is called agami. Agami literally means future, not yet come. That which has not yet come is agami karma. So these are the 3 types of karmas, right? Prarabdha karma is something we have to experience in this lifetime. We have to exhaust it. Sanchita karma is optional. I'll get to that in a moment. So let's look at an example. Okay. Suppose somebody is addicted to potato chips, right? Junk food. They like potato chips a lot. So what do? They go to the grocery store. They buy a ton, like Costco or Sam's Club, right? You can buy a lot of potato chips with very less money, and they stack their whole pantry with potato chips. So the pantry is the karma shaya, and the potato chips are all the unripe karmas because they're waiting to be consumed. So a lot of potato chips is hiding in the pantry, say. Now, suppose our friend has a moment of enlightenment. Maybe they read Yoga Sutras and they suddenly realize, oh, I need to be careful about what I eat. So today I'm deciding no more potato chips. I'm going to eat only sattvic food, right? We spoke about sattvic food a few moments back. So what do? All the potato chips that is in the pantry, they can throw it out. They need not experience the sanchita karma. That is the sanchita karma. They need not experience. They can burn the sanchita karma if they wish. It need not be used. But guess what? When they made the decision, I'm no longer going to eat potato chips, there is still a lot of chips sitting in their tummy, right? That is the prarabdha karma. You have to experience it, right? The effect of that will have to be experienced. So the prarabdha karma is whatever you have consumed at the time of birth is now progressing through your lifetime, and it will have an impact in our experience. How do the karmas get manifest in future? Patanjali talks about the law of karma. The second chapter, there are 3 sutras. The first sutra says, Sati mule tad vipako jati ayuhu bhogaha. Vipaka, we saw this word vipaka yesterday, right? Sati mule tad vipako, the fructification of the seeds in karma shaya will manifest as in 3 ways, Patanjali says. What are they? Jati ayuhu bhogaha. Jati means which body we are born in. Whether we are born in the body of a lizard or a snake or iguana or a penguin or a mosquito or an amoeba or a human being. So many choices. So jati, that is the jati. And then ayuhu, a lifespan. Our lifespan is predetermined according to Patanjali. And it is not measured in number of years. It is measured in terms of prana. And we can interpret also that as number of breaths. So when we lengthen the breath, we're actually lengthening the ayush, lengthening the lifetime. So Jati Ayu Bhogaha. Bhogaha means all the experiences that you will encounter in your life. It is predetermined. What will happen, the event that will happen, etc. It's predetermined according to Patanjali. Now, depending on which perspective you adopt, one of the events comes into our life. We see that as a good event or a bad event. That we have control over. It is like when you know, in India, we buy a ticket and you sit for a long train journey. I'm using the example of a train rather than a flight because in a train you have a lot of scenery, right? Everyone who got the same train ticket for the same train, they see the same scenery, but some will be snoring, some will be watching the mountains, enjoying, some babies will be crying. You see, everyone, they take different experiences. Same Vastu Samye Chitta Beda Tayor Vibhakta Pantaha, coming back to that sutra. The same scenery is there, but what we experience out of it is different. So those three are predetermined. So when you buy a ticket, when that karmashaya is now vipaka, fructifying, then whatever is the journey of that, whatever is the duration of the journey is predetermined. If the train journey is 20 hours, you have to sit through that 20 hours. If it is 4 hours, it will be only 4 hours, like that.
So Sriramji, this karmashaya and then the Patanjali Sutras, how the gets fructified, the karma into how you're born, your ayu and all that stuff. The definition of ayu, is it prana or the number of infinite movements that you experience? Like the reason I'm asking is like, if you were to take examples of Vivekananda, Shankaracharya, they only lived 32 years, but they experienced so many moments of infiniteness. Infinite plus infinite, it doesn't really matter anything. They actually, the ayu is beyond the physicality, because otherwise people interpret yoga as like, I can live for like 100 years, or I can get, it's all about elongating your breath so that I could live longer. So how, I don't know if that's even the right perspective.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's as if, whatever they contributed is maybe how much 1,000 person would have made the same contribution. In fact, it's much more than that. Right? Even 1,000 people, if you put them together in a room, they will not come up with a creative thought like Ramanujan. Right? Somebody even 100 years, if I work with my maths notebook, there's no way I can think of what Ramanujan thought. You see? So that brings to the point of Anuji's question, namely, why does the yogi manufacture so many chittas? Is because all the prarabdha karma can be swept away. It's like if you want to clean the home, would you hire one cleaner, or if the house is really messy, hire a dozen people? It can all be done very fast. So they have hired multiple chittas, 1,000 chittas, and immediately cleanse, like deep cleanse the entire chitta.
And I have a doubt. So every role you play in life allows you to have a different chitta.
Different screen, yeah.
Different screen. This will help you exhaust your
Prarabdha karma.
In the case of an actor, it's like the entire world is a drama and you're playing different roles. But in the case of an actor, you have this entire world, you have the actual roles. On top of that, he's also playing a mini stage setup and a drama. Will the prarabdha karma, is there a possibility? I'm just asking, just because you're intentionally doing it. There is an experience of that thing, but do you understand that?
Yes, in other words, that's a profound question.
You can actually explain that. It's like the Krishna avatar, right? How do you have this many limbs and this stuff so that you can do many more things?
In other words, the question is, when you're acting that role,
Yeah.
Are you exhausting the prarabdha karma?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a profound question, right?
Because you're actually that whatever is in, it'll come out, right?
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah. So that's an excellent question. Let's address that. So I hope the Zoom.
Can you repeat the question, Sriramji?
The question is, when an actor is playing a role, so not only are we playing a role in the so-called real life, they're playing another role within that drama of life, where they're acting some role, like Amitabh Bachchan playing the role of a coolie, right? So the role they play as an actor in the drama, will that also exhaust some prarabdha karma? So that is the question, right? Patanjali has an answer for that. Patanjali has an answer for it. We will look at that answer. And let me add to that question. Suppose the experiences that you have in dream, say tiger is chasing you, lot of fear, etc. Does that exhaust some of my karma?
Yeah.
Right? If that is the case, then we can say, oh, all my negative karma, let it come in a dream. All my positive karma, let me enjoy it in real life, so-called real life. Right? Later on, Patanjali will say, there is no qualitative difference between the so-called real world and the dream world. Both we can come out of by awakening from it. But we'll look at that later. So, coming back to this question about drama, the answer turns out to be yes. You can exhaust prarabdha karma. And let me quote that sutra. That sutra is very, very interesting. It's the longest sutra of the entire Patanjali Yoga Sutras. It comes in the second chapter. And there's a lot of things that he talks about, Patanjali talks about in the sutra, but we will examine the relevant portion of it in relation to this question. The sutra goes, Vitarka himsadaya kritakarita modita lobha krodha moha purvaka mrudu madhyadi matra dukkha jnana nantapala iti pratipaksha bhavanam. So it's a long sutra, but I want to take one segment of it. That segment is Krita Karita Anumodita. Krita Karita Anumodita. We're going to examine, we're going to throw light on this one. So what Patanjali says is, when does the karmashaya fructify in their experience? If somebody says, I want to do an adharmic act, I'm going to execute a murder, say, but I don't want the karma. What I will do is I hire somebody to do it. So let them get the karma. I'm just giving them some money, right? So how does the equation work here? Patanjali says, no, not so fast. What happens is, whether a person does that karma or whether a person delegates that karma to somebody else, they will still get the fruit of their action, whether you do it or whether you delegate somebody to do it. And then he adds a third surprise. That's where the answer to this question comes. Third surprise is, if you are just witnessing it, if you're watching it, and if you agree with the actor or the delegator, if you agree and you feel happy about that, anumodita. Mudita means to feel happy. Anumodita means, anu means to follow, right? Anumodita means, based on what they did, you get a precarious happiness by watching something. Or watching a movie, when the hero wins, you feel like a victor, right? It's like a second hand. Just by observing things, you feel happy. That is anumodita. Even the person who is in the place of anumodita will receive the fruit of karma.
Now comes my second part of the question.
So it's not yet over.
It's not.
So
You
how
will
does it happen?
get extinguished. I mean, the karma bank.
So what happens is, if somebody is watching a drama of, say, Ramayana, Rama and Ravana are having a war. Some people will be rooting for Rama. Oh, let Rama win. Other will say, oh, Ravana, I want Ravana to win. So depending on which actor they are rooting for, they get anumodita out of it, that karma will come to them.
Okay, got it.
You see? So that is the value of listening to all these legends. When you listen to Bhagavatam and great stories of saints, that is the value, because you don't have to go and do something in order to accrue a lot of good karma. You listen to a very amazing story of devotees, etc., what they did, amazing things they did, And you can derive Anumodita Phala. You see,
Okay.
that is the value of listening to Bhagavatam and things like that.
Can you define Anumodita again? Sorry.
Anumodita. Mudita means happiness. They talk about 3 types of happiness: Priya, Moda, and then there's a third one. It comes in Taittiriya Upanishad.
Okay.
Priya, Moda, and what's the other one? It'll come to me sometime during this talk.
Sure.
So, Anumodita means the prefix Anu means that which follows. In other words, it follows from what you're observing. You are not directly doing that action. You are receiving that happiness by watching somebody doing it. That is why, they talk about a passive spectator. When they see a crime and they don't do anything about it, they will also accrue bad karma. If we don't do anything about it, that means we are not detached from the situation. Karma will come to them also. We can do something, maybe call 911 or do something. Or if we see a road, something is broken, maybe the lights are broken. Some people will just complain, oh, this light has been broken for 6 months, nobody's doing anything about it. Guess what? They can do something about it, right? So if they just keep complaining, that means that karma will come to them also. It's as if they are broken that light.
Not acting when a dharma is happening, but simply
Exactly.
watching and enjoying it
Enjoying, yes.
is a dharma by itself.
Exactly. In fact, in one of the youth camps, it was an interesting one kid when we were talking about Yama principles, Ahimsa. And they said, I don't do any of this stuff, but I like only video games. He said, okay. Then it was like, I do not know. Sri Ramji told me, and I recited this. What Sri Ramji said is, even if you are just, being a witness, watching a video game, you will actually get this, right? So that's, then he was like,
But my second part of the question is, so if I play a negative role, will that also affect? See, if I play a positive role, fine, okay, it's going to. But what if I play a negative role? In the acting thing itself.
If we actually look back on why Ravana was there, or why Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were there in Bhagavatam, there was a reason why they were put in that place. They chose why they wanted to be there. In fact, it is said that when we look at the big picture of our life, some souls, they play the role of a villain because the soul that wants to be a hero wants to experience that aspect of heroism. So to give you that opportunity, let me help you. I'm assisting you. I'm serving you by being a villain. So it comes out of love. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
By the way, this leads perfectly into the next segment about what is Kaivalya. They're going to see that.
Shri Ramji, what about when we do something unknowingly? For example, you walk on the grass and there is like ant is getting squished. And like once I still remember very distinctly, I was driving a car and like there was a turtle. I pulled in the driveway and then I pull in the drive and I could feel the katak like a coconut getting break. And I just stopped right away. So when something happens unknowingly, like you were no intention, it just unknowingly. I mean, I will not say I was meant to do that, to crush that ant or anything else. I would not say I was meant to. I still don't walk on the grass if I have a choice to walk on the curb. And even if I walk on the grass, I would walk barefoot. Not with my slippers or flip-flop. I take it in my hand and walk. But like if something happens unknowingly, then what? Are we incurring some karmas?
Yeah, the answer is no, because they talk about the deliberate action. Acting, delegating, or watching and getting a precarious that feeling of joy. So that is why it is said that animals have a smaller karmashaya. because they don't accrue karma a lot, because they are driven by instinct more than deliberate. I'm going to do this. I have a choice of actions. I'm going to choose this. So their karma tank is small. And when we look at the turtle getting crushed by a car, say, remember yesterday we said we cannot assert anything into somebody else's experience. It happened because their karma tank attracted that event to their experience. If it is not one car, it will be some other car which would have crushed him. You see, I mean, it's not a way to justify, but it is a way to be at peace with that situation. Okay, I realize that there's a bigger picture to it. And also for the person who undergoes this event, oh, I inadvertently did something that I should not have done, it brings a big clarity of mind to be, okay, I'll be more careful, or I see the value of life now in a bigger way. So it will transform them also.
And one question, like going back to what Sumitra ji said, if she played the role of Ravana in a state of vairagya, then I thought there will not be any karma at all. Or from a state of meditation, or like
Dhyana jamana.
vairagya,
It's meditative state.
In a meditative state, then there is no karma transaction.
So let's examine that sutra. Tatra dhyanajam anashayam. That's the sutra. What it says is, any action that is done from a place of meditative awareness, from a dhyana state of mind, or any action that is inspired from a meditative state of mind, it will not add more to the karma tank.
Okay.
But remember, we have been already carrying a load of karma seeds in our karma tank. There is still a lot of prarabdha. It's like if you have a big pipe that brings fresh water to the house, and suppose muddy water is coming. Now, if the plumbing system, everything has been cleansed, you have to wait for for the next 45 minutes. You have to keep the tap open so that any mud or any non-clear water is flushed away from the system, and then it will be clear. So we still have a lot of karma in the karma tank that has to be gotten rid of. That's why Patanjali doesn't say you cannot remove the karma. You can just stop adding to it. So the only way to remember the potato chips example, when they get that moment of enlightenment, they can throw the potato chips away. Or in the example that Patanjali gives, they can burn the seeds of karma in the karma tank, of the sanchita karma, not the prarabdha karma. Because prarabdha karma is sitting in the tummy. Sanchita karma, they can easily burn those seeds. So what is that analogy referred to? What is the fire that burns the seed of sanchita karma? And the answer is given in the Bhagavad Gita. It is the fire of knowledge, or the fire of wisdom. When we become wise, we simply throw them away. It's like the wisdom in the mind of the person that says, I am no longer going to eat junk food. So although there was a lot of sanchita karma in the pantry, they will simply throw it out. They need not experience it. Just because I bought it, I should not waste money. I should not waste food. So I have to eat it. They will not say that. You see, they will just simply throw it.
Or can they get to a thing like Ramakrishna amongst others? They speak because they transcend the body. They can, what they eat no longer, potato chips or this thing, it doesn't matter because they transcend with their karma.
Yeah, depending on the nature of the body. Remember that we define sattvic food as food that is preferred by a sattvic mind. And depending on the sattvic mind, how the body build up is, etc., their preferences will change.
Back to the question about the yogi who's manufacturing multiple chittas, I'm a little bit confused about how that looks in practice. Like, do they have some sort of awareness of the types of chittas they need to embody in order to exhaust the karmashraya, or are they like responding on a moment-to-moment basis and maybe like inadvertently creating new chittas?
Yeah, a yogi is very deliberate. Maybe they know conceptually, I need so many chittas and do it. It's a very deliberate thing. It's not coming from happenstance. Right?
Okay.
It's like, okay, the house is messy, so I need at least a dozen people to cleanse, to clean the home.
Can you give an more examples of chitta? Like, I guess I understand like the role of a student or the role of a child, but on a deeper level, I'm kind of not. Like, what would a yogi do if they were that?
There are legends in the yoga literature that talk about the same yogi living concurrently with different bodies, let alone chitta, concurrently with different bodies. We are all, used to the fact of one lifetime after another, but it is still a serial flow of life. Yogi can do parallel, serial versus parallel, the same instant with multiple lives.
It's like the Vishwarupa, so many bodies, so many limbs, and so many, they're orchestrating so many roles in the entire universe, right? One way to think is that even Elon Musk has with boring company, this company, that company.
Maybe he's a yogi.
Yeah, exactly. He's actually creating not just burning, but they can actually effect more change, cultivate more capacity, bigger capacity to change.
They build a team. It's like somebody who's building a team. Only thing, the team is all here, a team of chittas.
There is not just a downside cleaning up, but it's upside.
But I have a
Multiple personality.
When we talk about delegation, we said that, from one perspective, we examine that even if we delegate a bad action, we accrue the karma. But if we are the delegate, now we accrue that karma?
Yes, for example, maybe in a corporate office, the CEO is not a very ethical guy. Maybe the employee may not know that. They have been tasked to do something. Again, when they are true to what they know, their mind, so their thoughts, words, and actions, when they're all aligned in harmony, then they will not accrue the karma. So they'll accrue the karma only when they know that a deliberate action is what will accrue that karma. So in that case, only the delegator will accrue that karma. But another question is, say a person like Hitler, he delegates to people, okay, you kill 1 million people. And the person who is tasked with that are now in a dilemma. They don't want to do it. Arjuna had the same thought. I want to kill so many people in this war, but how can I do that? And all of them are not strangers. They're my gurus, they're my family members. Why am I in this position? Like, I don't see clarity in it. I don't want to kill them. I don't want to be the bad guy. So what? A dharma sankata, they say, dharma sankata. And that's where Krishna gives all this. So the point is, in that moment, we are inspired to think deeper. Otherwise, we will not even think we will be thinking about potato chips. Maybe we were put in that situation because it's an opportunity for us to contemplate more.
It's like the Bhishma Dronacharya, exactly the Hitler deputies, right? Just because they had to be on the other side, they had to go perform their action. But at least the way I understood it, because they had that awareness of what is good or right, the fact that they did the Anumodita or decided to do it, they probably proved the karma.
Yeah, that is one way to interpret it.
Yeah. No, exactly. But the thing is, if they did not know that awareness, they had that discriminatory awareness, and still they agreed to do it, was perhaps there's a layers of dharma, right?
Like knowingly, or for example, in somebody who is reporting to say, what's the Russia? Putin, yeah. Then what do they do? Because the consequences of not following the words is also very unpalatable. So we have to weigh, and maybe that's outside the box thinking. It's impossible to think from this state of mind unless we're in the situation. It's very difficult to imagine.
Insider of a tobacco company, all these people who actually leaked our secrets.
But I think that poses like an interesting question, especially for my generation. I feel like a lot of us are having trouble with the corporate scheme because in one way or another, we're enabling a system that's exploitative. And that kind of paralyzes us when making career decisions because we have to do something to ensure our stability and some minor contribution to society, but in a larger way, we're enabling institutions that just harm us. So
Yeah. It remains for conversation we had the other day.
Capitalism versus communism.
Yeah.
Right?
So the thing is, in order to make a change, first we need to bring that power from within. Otherwise, when we are a nobody, then we cannot make a change. Perhaps in order to empower ourselves, we have to be in that system for some time. And then after some time, when there's a sphere of influence is big enough, then we can create a change.
Gita was only shared to Arjuna, a skilled warrior, not to every other thing, because he has the capability to do that, right? To increase the circle of influence.
okay.
That's a very interesting question. Why Arjuna was given
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita?
So, Jay, one thing related here, because Anumodit, you said that the person who looks at and directs the if your intention is not deliberate, you don't accrue the karma. But in Mahabharata itself, there is a story of Yudhishthira, right? That he unknowingly announced that Ashwatthama died, or rather, he didn't know that it was the elephant that died, but when he announced, the Dronacharya thinks it's his son who died. And that's why in the end, when the Pandavas are walking, first they have to walk through hell. Even Yudhishthira, someone like Yudhishthira had to walk through hell, and then and they say, like, what did he do? He was always Dharmaraya, right? But that one moment, he had to still finish the karma. But in that, he was not deliberate, like he was unaware.
My
No, he was
reading of,
deliberate.
yeah,
He knew.
he knew.
The
That's
king
why
is
he
whispers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew.
Krishna blows the conch.
Yeah, Ashwatthama.
Hataha
Yes.
Kunjara.
Kunjara.
Kunjara, that's
So Krishna blows the conch when he says the Ashwatthama, the elephant.
Kunjara. Yeah. He hides it.
So he blows the conch in that word where the elephant is used. They actually kill the real elephant. They say Ashwatthama.
It's like Narova Kunjarova. It's Narova Kunjarova. He says,
Yeah.
they ask
Yes.
Krishna.
Oh, okay.
So Krishna says Narova Kunjarova.
Yes.
He was well aware.
Did you hear that? Of so Anujaji just said Narova Kunjarova. So that question was asked. So yes, there was consequence of that also. In fact, Krishna himself undergoes consequence of doing some negative karma. In fact, the final moment of his life, where the hunter shot his toe, so that itself was a consequence of some negative karma. He also accrued some curse from Kunti, right?
Yeah.
So all of this happens even in Krishna's life. That brings one more point. There's a beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, 47th verse, or 48th, one of 47 or 48. It says, Sahajam karma kaunteya sadoshamapi natyajet karma rambahi doshena dhumegnagni vavrittaha. What it means is, every karma will have a tinge of negative consequences. Do not forego the action just because there's a little bit of negative consequence. And he gives an analogy. Whenever you light fire, there is always smoke that surrounds it. So just because there's going to be smoke, don't stop illumining the fire.
In fact, the thing that I'm always struggling with right now, particularly if you take the Gaudapada's interpretation, when the universe sets into the motion, we don't have a choice but to have a role in it. So this point of I don't want to have a birth or I don't want to have a rape, and then itself becomes like a mood or a pointless effect. So when the Brahman itself chooses to have an appearance and have various this thing, we just have to go through it, whatever the role is, because it's just part of the whole drama. This point of I don't want to be birth free, death free. You will never be. There was no birth, there was no death. So that point at least latch on to. There is nothing to be burnt up. There is nothing just.
Yes, in other words, Krishna says same thing in the 3rd chapter. He says, I am still doing actions because if I stop doing actions, others will watch me and they will also stop doing action. So that activity is always happening. Maybe, yeah.
One clarification. So when you silences and get a calmer mind. Right? So there's a lot of these that pass you and in the deep relaxation and don't dwell on it. Right? And more calmer and more deeper you go, right? Is there a possibility that you can let the chitta pass by and the prarabdha karma is diminished faster? Because it's like a black hole. That's it. It's like if you dwell, you are active and you're confident.
In other words, the prarabdha karma is fructifying.
Yeah.
You're just sleeping, or you're just ignoring,
Distant.
indifferent to the pain.
Indifferent.
Yeah, I mean,
So is that
Krishna
how-
says in one verse, he agrees with you in one of the, that's the 15th verse of the second chapter. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukhadukkadaha agama apayino nityaha tam titikshasva bharata. Titiksha means to endure it.
Yeah.
So just endure it from a place of detachment.
Witness.
It's coming, I'm just watching, and it is going. So prarabdha karma, how you experience the same thing. Prarabdha karma is there. So one could say, oh, I'm suffering. Another could be happy saying, oh, my prarabdha karma is getting extinguished. Karmashaya tank is getting lighter. Good. So that way they feel happy.
Varsha's answer is just meditate and so you'll decide which one intuitively you'll be smart enough to decide what's good in your context that you can actually.
So they manufacture so many chittas that playing multiple, deep cleansing is happening.
Or just play.
But this was a really good discussion, because, especially the part where don't not do an action just because there is a negative connotation.
Yeah.
I may be justifying what I recently did. And it also has a question because, trees and shrubs, all these are living things too, right? Maybe don't have intellect. So therefore, harming trees is not a good idea. However, if a tree is identified as invasive or a species that is not native, it is better to, cut it off. So Bradford pear, by the way, in all around North Texas, in the 90s, Bradford pears were planted all over in all the communities. And so much so that USDA had encouraged builders to, but what they have done is those trees have created an ecological problem. So I recently cut two of my Bradford pear trees. And it was a really difficult decision because with intent, I cut a tree. But I had to justify to the family and to myself that it's actually what these trees do is they were marketed as sterile trees for landscaping, but they actually cross-pollinate with others, and they are causing they manifest as trees that become very thorny, and they are taking over vegetation, and many states have banned them, like North Carolina, South Carolina, all these states have banned them. So just an example.
I remember
Monsanto seeds, right? The same thing.
Yeah.
These are like just change the nature of the soil.
somebody asked a similar question to Swami Bodhanandaji. He said, okay, if you destroy one tree, so some seeds grow 2 trees. So like that. It reminds me of one more thing. What about killing a pest, say? When I see a cockroach, the first thing I do is to call Eka, my wife. For 2 reasons. There are 2 reasons for that. First reason is I'm afraid. The second reason is her practice of ahimsa is so amazing. She will not kill it.
She lifted it and threw it out.
Yeah, she will slowly find a paper and find a cup and slowly. In fact, she even prays to it. Okay, I'm going to liberate you outside. I'm going to take you outside. So slowly she will take it and leave it out, and and you will say, okay, hope you enjoy the nature. She actually speaks.
My mother did the similar thing with me as a kid. So in India, because we used to have lizards that come inside the house, right? And she used to be always very terrified. She trained me to catch lizards. I don't know if I any longer still have that thing, but as a kid, till I was 15, 16, I had the thing to catch lizards. So she had trained me to catch it from anywhere and throw it out. Because she didn't want to kill. Somebody had told, if you kill lizard, something will happen. So she had trained me to catch it, and I could catch any ugly-looking lizard and throw it out.
My brother does that. If there is a bird caught inside the house, for that, till then he won't talk. I'll be there in the same house, he will talk to me. But if there's some bird caught or some rabbit caught somewhere, he'll be so scared. He said, please come, please come. Only you can, hold it and set it free.
See, but the thing is, if you look at it, somebody working for permanence, right? Or somebody going to a war, a soldier, their job is to go kill, right? But if the only choice is they have to appear in a witness role, right? Only then it becomes a residual reaction. Otherwise, we are like.
But there are a lot of intricacies. It's not very easy. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Gahana Karmana Gatihi. That means the web of karma, how it intersects, how different people's karma shayas intersect at different points of time. You really need only a universal supercomputer to keep track of all that. What we can do is to give our best based on the data that we have. So in about 3 minutes, we'll take a short break.
I think this is kind of clarifying it, but do you mind expanding on the sphere of influence thing? Because I believe that and I agree with it, but how is that compatible with the idea that if you know something is bad and you intentionally comply with it, you don't accrue the bad karma?
Because from whatever choices that we have, or whatever choices we think we have, we could have more choices, but we are not aware of it perhaps. And we take the best decision based on the awareness of the choice we have at that time. Maybe it's in that situation, it's trying to decide between as they say, rock and a hard place, right? But you choose the best given that situation. Patanjali says, whenever we are stuck in such a situation, take a few moments to go deep, align with the light. Vishoka va Jyotishmati is the sutra. So with a higher state of awareness, you will have access to choices that you were not aware of before. That could be a third way. Think outside the box. So all that will come to you when we actually think from a different state of mind.
This is very complex, no? This karma thing.
Sleep on it, right?
Or meditate on it.
I think I will take the ladder now. That's the ladder seems to be easy.
This insight that you gave today is a multiple chitta. It's almost like each of us have a multi-verse. Even though we see one body, one leg, we all have at any point in time, we are creating so much effect on so many different dimensions.
In other words, we are not just an actor in one movie. In the same instant, we are actually playing roles in multiple movies. There's one audience here, one audience there, one audience here. In one movie, we are playing the role of a Rama. In the other movie, we are playing the role of a Duryodhana. Like the different costumes we are wearing in different chittas. So why don't we do one thing? It is 3:35. That means we are at the 95-minute mark. Why don't we take a short 11-minute break till 3:46? 7 minutes is enough.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and finally we will explore what is the definition of Kaivalya. We have not yet looked into it right now.
So one thing
Shriramji, why are we finishing early today? Why are we finishing at 5 instead of 6:30 or
No, we
6?
have a draw after that.
Oh, we usually finish our scheduled time was 5:30. Yesterday it went over time because we had a guest, Dr. Raju. And 5:30 is our usual time to finish. Today we thought we'll end a little early because of two reasons. At 7 p.m. we have like a July 4th fireworks kind of thing and some culture. And then I thought that Kaivalya will take up only up to 5 p.m. That's what I thought. But let's see. If we don't finish the thing what I had in mind, then maybe we'll go up to 5:15.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes,
For your consideration. One is, how about for 30 to 40 minutes, you go uninterrupted for all the things that you want to cover about the Kaivalya, and then we defer the Q&A towards the end.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
So we'll cover everything.
Yeah.
And then the last about 18 minutes.
Yeah.
We will set aside for Q&A.
Okay, that makes sense.
If need be, you can make the determination on if you want to send the Q&A to where the people. But we would love to get the content that you have in mind
Yes,
to be revealed.
yes.
Yeah, we'll cover everything.
Yeah.
And then how to practicalize the
Yeah.
Kaivalyam. And then we will have Q&A.
Otherwise, you would have to come back to finish the Karmashaya. The Kaivalya.
Speaking
Okay.
of Ashaya,
So it's 3:37. We'll
yesterday was
meet back at 3:48.
Ashaya
11 minutes.
was repository.
Yes, yes.